Hi, everybody. I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is the 50th episode in our series about Bevis Marks Synagogue, a series that we began at the very beginning of lockdown in 2020. There'll be one conclusion video that I'll be releasing after this one, but this essentially concludes this look into all the intricacies and details and history of the building itself, Bevis Marks Synagogue. And so for this final episode, I'm going to be sharing something with you which really has been a bit of a discovery that's happened as a result of our restoration of the synagogue. Now, something that I've always noticed here at Bevis Marks, that we have some features that we don't seem to use, that don't seem to have any purpose. And so you can see here this notch in the wall and this hook, and on the opposite side, a hook and some grooves. And we don't use these for any reason today. But I know from being in other Spanish and Portuguese synagogues that you often would have some kind of barrier in this location as a way to ensure that during certain parts of the service, during the Kiddusha or other important elements like the Birkat Kohanim, the priestly blessing, this would be cordoned off by the shamash, the sexton, to ensure that nobody walked in during that part of the service, disrupting such an important part. And so something that we've had in the synagogue, but not really used, was this rope. And this rope quite clearly would be used in that fashion to simply close off during parts of the service. But it struck me that this was not the original thing that had been here, because quite clearly there are these additional grooves that indicate something else. And so while clearing out the tunnel for the project, we discovered some pieces of wood. And as soon as I saw them, it hit me that, those are the original barriers of the synagogue. And so I have it here, and you can see that it has this metal part that would slot in to the groove over here, into these slots, and it would come down into the other half. And it would simply go up and down at different parts of the service. Now, clearly, at a certain point, they decided that this was not functioning well. Perhaps it was simply falling and not staying in place. But one of the things we're still hoping to do as part of the kind of concluding bits of the project is to actually reinstall these wooden barriers. Not necessarily to use them, though perhaps we can, but to have them put back in place in a way where they don't fall over, but can actually be restored to the original fabric of the building. And so this has been one of the really kind of interesting things that we've come across during these years, and reflects, again, the dignity of a Spanish and Portuguese service, that it always is done with a high level of decorum and respect, not interrupting the service during special parts. But we also had another interesting discovery that I also want to show you that also has to do with barriers within the synagogue. So come, let me go show you that other spot. I'm standing now on the north side of the synagogue, just to the left when one walks inside. And it's also over here where there's some aspects of the building that indicate there used to be something else that was there. And so if you look over here, you can see a bit of wood protruding from this column. And then all the way on the opposite side, there's this notch that's been cut out into the seat. And when we were clearing out once again, the tunnel that runs beneath the synagogue, we found some large boards of wood. And I noticed that at the very bottom of them, there were these cutouts in their corners. And it struck me that they would seem to slot right in over this step and then over the seat. And so as a way of, shall we say, trying it out, we actually brought those boards into the synagogue and set them up in this place. And I have some photos that demonstrate how it looked. Now that wood was not something very ancient. They weren't very old, and clearly it seems like this was something that was an addition made to the synagogue after it had been built, where they kind of made it work over here. And we found that, in fact, there are these kinds of cutouts in a few different places in the synagogue, indicating that there had been these partitions in a few different areas. The real kicker was that we actually found a floor plan of the synagogue from 1876. And in that floor plan, you can see lines drawing where those partitions had been located. And they were in a few different spots within the synagogue. So what was the purpose of these partitions? Well, it seemed like they were cordoning off different areas. Perhaps an area where the children would sit so that they could neither be seen nor heard, or perhaps to block off where different storage maybe would be. But they haven't been put in place for quite a long time. Nobody in the synagogue, even those who are nearly 90 years old, don't remember these partitions having ever been there. So when exactly they were added and when exactly they had been taken away is a bit of a mystery, but we know at least in the latter part of the 19th century, they had been there. And once again, it was really about discovering features of the synagogue where there are, shall we say, indications, hints that things had been there, but they no longer are there. And to me, they reflect the fact that this has been a living place of worship, a synagogue which has been a synagogue throughout the centuries, but of course, at different moments in the history had been used in slightly different ways. And it was wonderful to, shall we say, rediscover and to record those discoveries, like through this video, in a way that more people can know about those different parts of the history. But ultimately, of course, today it is a synagogue which is more open, without partitions, without barriers, because of course it is a synagogue which is open to all. And it's something which we love and want to share with so many more people. And so I hope that this series has been a window into this remarkable building as a way for so many more people to enjoy it, whether you were stuck at home in lockdown or live in some other place around the world. And so we are, shall we say, removing the barriers and looking forward to welcoming all of you with the opening of the Visitor Center in the year ahead. And so in my next video, I'm going to reflect on everything that we've learned during this series, and in fact, all the things that we're looking forward to in the year ahead. And so thank you for joining me on this journey over these past few years, and I look forward to seeing you in the next final video. Thank you.